Getting your full motorcycle license in the UK is a bit of a mission. For those of you looking to get your full motorcycle license, here's a quick rundown. Once you've done what's known as a CBT and you're 17 years or older, you can start riding motorcycles, but only on an A1 license, meaning that you can only ride up to a 125cc bike with around 14 horsepower or so, until you've done your full motorcycle test. Then, depending on your age, you can then go on to do an A2 license if you're aged between 19 to 23, allowing you to ride motorcycles up to 47 horsepower. Then, of course, at 24 years and up, you may then go on to do a full motorcycle license or A license. Wow, that process is such a mess nowadays. But anyway, on to the main topic of today's video. Here are 5 of the best A2 starter motorcycles that you can buy from the factory today. But before we get started, we're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoy the video to help the channel grow. And thank you in advance for your support. Alright, now let's get started. Honestly, for some of you it may be more practical to stay on a 125cc motorcycle until you're 24, as buying 3 motorcycles when you're 17, 19 and 24 will be a stretch. But if you are desperate to get on an A2, here are some of the best out there. Coming in at number 5 is BMW's G310R. The G310 is BMW's way of trying to get younger riders into BMW motorcycles, so it's quite an important bike for BMW and their marketing. It sports a 313cc single-cylinder engine that produces 34 horsepower and a tiny 28 Nm of torque. Or that's 21 in foot-pounds, which to be honest I would have expected a little more torque from the single cylinder. However, in terms of top speed, it is in line with the other motorcycles in the class, topping out at around 104 miles an hour. Not bad. And I suppose the torque kind of makes more sense when you consider the weight of the G310 is sitting at a featherweight 158 kilograms wet. The 0 to 60 times of the G310 are 6 seconds, and a standing quarter mile time of 15.1 seconds, which is about on par with the other motorcycles in this list, but the 0 to 60 could have been a little better in my opinion. Owner reviews of this bike say that it is comfortable and fun to ride, but there are a lot of vibrations coming through the handlebars at highway speeds, and the 2021 model has been recalled 3 times since release due to kickstand issues and corrosion on the front brake caliper. However, it seems that the reliability of this little bike is pretty good overall. 2 big incentives for buying the G310 are fuel economy and price. With this bike getting a claimed 85 mpg on average and a starting price of £4,785 respectively, that's a pretty good deal, especially when you consider ABS comes as standard. But it is BMW after all, so if anything does go wrong, you can expect to pay top dollar to get it fixed. Next up at number 4 is the KTM 390 Duke. KTM's 390 Duke is the naked bike for you if you're looking for the most torque from an A2 motorcycle. It has a thumping 373cc single-cylinder engine producing an amicable 44 horsepower with a lovely 37 Nm of torque, or 27 in foot-pounds. This is perhaps the bike that will feel faster than most of the other A2 motorcycles thanks to the extra bump in torque. But its claimed top speed is 104 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, with the standing quarter mile sitting at just over 14 seconds. It's impressive if the 390 Duke can actually reach over 100 miles an hour, as it is one of the heavier motorcycles in this list, around 177 kilos. And fuel economy may also be taking a hit here, getting between an average of 50 to 60 mpg. Even though KTMs may not be as reliable as the Japanese Big 4, you shouldn't need to worry too much if you're buying one from new or used from a couple of years ago with relatively low mileage. Although they have been known to have a few electrical gremlins here and there, so have some spare fuses handy if you're looking to buy one of these. Some of the more standout features in the latest 390 Duke models include a lovely full-colour TFT dash with a gear indicator, rider modes and ABS brakes. That's a pretty sweet deal, coming in at a starting price of £5,100, and they could be had for even cheaper than that at certain dealerships. Number 3 is actually 2 motorcycles that are basically the same, and they are Yamaha's MT03 and R3. These 2 motorcycles share quite a lot between them, apart from the looks of course. The latest models both use the same 321cc parallel twin-cylinder engine that produces a nice 41 horsepower and 30 Nm of torque, or that's 22 in foot-pounds. In terms of weight, both are said to be 169 kilograms wet, which I do find hard to believe considering all the extra plastic the R3 has covering its engine. I personally would go for the MT03 over the R3 as it's the cheaper of the two, and you'll basically be getting the same experience, but the R3 has a slightly higher top speed at 117 miles an hour, whereas the MT03 tops out at around 105 miles an hour. In terms of 0 to 60 times, both bikes are pulling a recorded time of 5.1 seconds and a standing quarter mile time of 14.1 seconds. For regular street riding, the top speed shouldn't matter to you, but unless you intend on taking your bike to a track day, the R3 may be the better option for you. Just depends if you prefer the fully faired look over a more naked look. Not to mention that the MT03 has slightly better fuel economy at a claimed 75 mpg average compared to the claimed 60 mpg of the R3. Though I am skeptical of this disparity as both bikes have the same engine, power numbers and weight, so the difference may not be as stark between the two in terms of fuel economy. Many long-term owners have praised the MT03 and R3 as reliable, comfortable and fun motorcycles for A2 license holders. Prices for new models are relatively in line with the competition, with the MT03 starting at £5,300 and the R3 from £5,650, both available with ABS. At number 2 is the Kawasaki Ninja 400. Kawasaki certainly upped their A2 game with the release of the Ninja 400 back in 2018, replacing their old offering, the Ninja 300, with its 399cc parallel twin engine, producing 45 horsepower and 38 Nm of torque. Kawasaki are cutting it pretty close to the A2 limit with the Ninja 400. On spec, the top speed of the Ninja 400 is estimated to be 100 miles an hour, with a 0 to 60 time of just over 4 seconds and a standing quarter mile time of 13 seconds. That's some pretty good figures, but the top speed leaves something to be desired, considering it's nipping at the heels of its big sibling, the Ninja 650, in the 0 to 60 and quarter mile. The weight of this bike comes in at a nice 166 kilograms wet, and the ergonomics are fairly relaxed, in contrast to its sport bike looks, but you do have room to tuck in if you wanted to. Owner reviews of the Ninja 400 are overwhelmingly positive, with most saying it's comfortable on longer rides, has a lot of fun factor and is very reliable, with an average fuel economy upwards of 55 mpg. But there are a few problems with this bike, especially in the UK and Europe, where Euro 5 emission standards have forced Kawasaki to stop selling the Ninja 400 from new, leaving potential buyers with only a small selection of used ones. So I've kind of cheated our UK and European viewers with this bike on the list. Also, valve clearance check intervals for these bikes is every 7,600 miles, so that's a big cost to swallow if you're forced to buy one of these used. This may not be the case in future though, as Kawasaki's current lineup in the UK is completely missing an A2 class motorcycle, so there is some hope that they'll release a new Euro 5 model of the Ninja 400 at some point in the European market. Let's keep our fingers crossed on that one. If you live in the UK and really want a Ninja 400, they can be had between £3,500 to £4,000, used with lowish mileage. But across other parts of the world, the Ninja 400 can still be bought from new around the $5,000 mark, with optional ABS adding an extra $300 to the price tag. Not a bad price compared to the MT03 and R3, so if you're in the market for an A2 sport bike, you can't really go wrong with a Ninja 400 with its lightweight design and reliable 45 horsepower motor. Number 1 on our list is the Honda CBR 500R. It was a tough call between the Ninja 400 and CBR 500R as to which should be on top of our list. However, this is actually a top class A2 motorcycle that you can actually buy from new right now in the UK, so it was only fair to put the CBR at the top. Sporting a 471cc parallel twin-cylinder engine that produces just under the 47 horsepower threshold and 43 Nm of torque, or that's 32 in foot-pounds. That can get the CBR up to a top speed of 112 miles an hour and a 0 to 60 of 5 seconds with a standing quarter mile time of around 14 seconds, which is pretty good. It sits in line with the other motorcycles in this class. But I can't help thinking that in a way this motorcycle doesn't really make much sense, as it has an extra 72cc displacement over the Ninja 400, but weighing in at 192 kilograms wet. That's adding an extra 26 kilograms, just for an extra 2 horsepower, meaning that the Ninja 400 actually has a better power to weight ratio than the 500R. So I'm not sure that it's worth the extra 72cc, to be perfectly honest, but it's nice to get that extra bump in torque from the Ninja 400 and a much higher top speed, so I suppose it depends on what you prefer, and the US version produces a few more horsepower than its European cousin if it wasn't restricted by the A2 standard. But I still think it's missing the mark somewhat in terms of performance. Anyway, enough of my negativity, let's talk about the positives. The ergonomics are fairly relaxed again, with a slight lean towards the handlebars to give a slight sporty feel when riding. So it should be comfortable for most people on longer rides, and you'll be getting the standard Honda reliability. The CBR 500R also comes with a nice colour LCD dash and a gear indicator. It's not quite as nice as the TFT LCD dash in the Duke 390, but certainly nicer than the others in this class, although you may find the dash to be a little dim in certain times of day. Fuel economy is also very good, with owners claiming to get upwards of 70 mpg on average with a steady throttle hand. That's especially good when you consider the added weight of the bike. Depending on the dealership, prices of a new CBR 500R start around the £6,000 mark in the UK, which makes it one of the most expensive A2 bikes. But it will give you more of that big bike feel than the others on this list, and when you add the extra top speed and torque into the mix, it will bring you closer to the feel of a 650cc motorcycle rather than a 300. So it really depends on your personal taste, but for an A2 motorcycle, the CBR 500R is about as good as you can get. However, keep in mind that the Ninja 400 is equally as good in a lot of ways. Just before we wrap up this video, I want to address the fact that you can actually buy a motorcycle that has more than 47 horsepower on an A2 license, such as a 650cc, but it would need to be restricted by a garage to 47 horsepower whilst you're on an A2 license. Then of course, when you qualify to get a full motorcycle license, you can go back to the garage and get it de-restricted. We'll make another video in future of the 5 best motorcycles to restrict for an A2 license, but for now I hope you've enjoyed this video and I found it helpful if you are in the market for an A2 motorcycle. Let us know in the comments if there are any motorcycles you think should have made the list, and if you have any further recommendations for A2 riders. Thank you ever so much for watching, we'll see you next time.